Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Hermitage. On the last episode, I should give it its full title. It's Hermitage The Strange Case Files. On the last episode, we came across Eloise and Cecile in a trance just outside of the bookstore. And we broke them out of it, and they revealed basically more about what was going on. About, they've been using the lilac grass, that Cecile had been, shoved in backside the locker by someone, and, there's some, nefarious thing going on. And, her visions of, seeing, basically a post-apocalyptic world. Without, form and stuff like that. We also failed one of our, case investigation things. And I apologise on that, because I looked back at it and looked online, because I was very confused. I just wanted to check if you could miss, those snippets of information, which I don't know if you can, actually. But we did have all the information, and I even had it in the right order on one at a time. And I thought it was something I'd already done, and I hadn't, so apologies, I got it wrong, but I did actually have it right at one point. Not that it matters, and I'm not going back to redo it, so I'll live with that decision. Anyway, let's get back to the game. I'm really thankful. It's great how quickly you managed to get the medicine. I didn't have much hope left. It's a big and crowded city. As long as there's demand, there's always going to be a way to get all kinds of pills. People working in law enforcement can't afford to slack off. Everybody can use a little pick-me-up every now and then. You just need the right connections, and I happen to know people. That sounds like a pretty grey area to me. Are you sure it's okay? Don't worry. It's genuine pharma stuff. Prescription grade. You can't die unless you munch down the whole bag at once. I'll take your word for it. You didn't just drag me out of here to get some fresh air, did you? Scarlet leans against the railing, and there's a long moment of silence before she speaks. It looks like those two girls are very close, right? Yes. Then I want you to carefully consider whether you'll tell Cecile what I'm about to tell you. Oh? Did you find something new? Yes, and I'm worried about Cecile's reaction to it. I can't help but admire Scarlet for this. She must have been working non-stop. Scarlet lets out a deep sigh. After reporting my findings to you, I went to the Young Artists Association. With all those documents, it wasn't hard to make up a reason to be there. And guess what? The association was never encouraging or promoting this thing. They actually find it troublesome themselves and would have wanted to put things to rest quietly. So how did it end up becoming a back and forth of paperwork warfare? Scarlet shakes her head in disbelief. Because Eloise appeared at the doorstep and made them a promise to thoroughly investigate the matter. She went there carrying her painting as well as a tape recorder. The director said that Eloise politely asked him for advice on how to handle the complaint. No matter what he tried to say, she remained persistent and wouldn't give up. So the director was so impressed that he decided to relent? It isn't that simple. He didn't agree until the very end, and only reluctantly, because he had to. I tried to guess what she means by that, but I have no clue. Eloise stood there and threatened to kill herself. She was cutting her into her wrist with a blade she took from her art club. She'd placed the tape recorder on the edge of the desk. The director was frightened and didn't know what to do. I pictured the situation in my mind. An adult in his office, shaking behind his desk, and Eloise standing there calmly, with a blade covered in blood. It reminded me of the feeling I had when she walked into the store. Her calm, quiet aura emits a certain oppressive power. A horrible thought, isn't it? An unassuming girl enters your office, and suddenly that happens. Nobody will help me. This is the only way I'll get any justice from you. That's what she said to the director while holding up her bleeding arm. No wonder he agreed. Her choice of words is interesting, isn't it? With this kind of pressure on them, the school and the cheaters' parents will have had to work together to find a solution. Personally, I think the situation is even more complicated. At least, that's how it seems to me since I talked to those two students. Anyway, That's what happens. Have you checked with the association to see if they've made a final decision? I mean, nothing about Lily is directly related to them. Since the higher-ups had no intention of admitting anything, the association can do nothing more than apply pressure and protest. So saving face before the other school is more important than actual justice. Sorry again for squeaky chair. According to them, the award has been withdrawn, so Eloise got what she wanted. So, there's no longer a punishment in effect. That's right. It's over. Considering the circumstances, I'm not as happy about that answer as I should be. What a mess. Exactly. If Cecile finds out about the predicament Eloise was put in because of the art club, there's no telling what she might do. I wouldn't blame Cecile if she caused a ruckus. She's been through a lot in a very short time, and somehow I think Eloise acted in a more calculated way than it seems at first. If you cut your wrist without hitting an artery, it's a scary sight, that's for sure. But it's not enough to actually kill yourself. But how would a young student know that? Did she research and plan it carefully? Or is she used to such violence? Either possibility makes me shudder, or she didn't just cut deep. You know, that is also another option. It's insane. This isn't something you can ever take back. Some things haunt you for a lifetime, and are more than just a small stain on your resume. Society is cold, averting its eyes instead of lending a helping hand. There's nothing to be done about it, but sitting around helplessly won't solve anything either. Don't look so grim. We have to look on the bright side. As I stand there in silence, Scarlett walks over to me and gently places a hand on my shoulder. Her words carry a certain weight. Whether she's working as a civil servant or as a lawyer, her daily tasks revolve around situations that originate from feelings of helplessness. This makes her words sound genuine. I straighten my collar and begin to ponder. I'm grateful for Scarlett and her kindness, I really am. Right now, the weight of the world seems even heavier than usual. We'll have to take all of this into careful consideration. Scarlett, from what we've gathered, who do you think planned that attack on Cecile? Her? Scarlett freezes. I can't tell if it's my question or something else that prompted her reaction. Who knows? We don't have much to go on other than what Cecile can tell us. Have we? I can't do a lot with such limited information. You're right. Her statement alone is insufficient evidence. But let's not act as if it's nothing at all. You know what? In cases such as these, figuring out the whole story can be even more shocking than the result. You don't have to take a door off its hinges to get past it. Finding a key that fits is enough. Cecile showed us the lock on the door. Now it's up to us to find out how to open it. Speaking of which, could it be that Cecile is more aware of the situation than she lets on? And is it just afraid of confirming her suspicions? The thought makes me feel a little queasy, but the question needs to be answered either way. Who ordered the attack on Cecile? I have to find out. Don't say that! I'm only doing this because I owe you! After this is done, we're even. Get it? After this is done, we're even. I think about what Cecile told me earlier. This is very serious. It's an actual crime. Whoever ordered it must have had a lot of power over the students to make them do such a thing. Cecile is just an ordinary transfer student. Even if she had problems with people in the past, it shouldn't have affected the other students like that. That would mean that the person who locked her holds no personal grudge against Cecile and was merely used as a tool. The question is, what could somebody owe a person that was serious enough to commit such a crime? Are you referring to the cheating incident? There were two people who took a loss. Lily, who had to leave the school to study at home, and Eloise, the real creator of the winning entry. Wait, you don't think... My mind is racing. I don't respond to Scarlett directly, trying to hold on to my train of thought instead. Lily graduated before Cecile enrolled at the school. That means everything that happened before then shouldn't have had anything to do with Cecile. Lily is no longer a part of the school, meaning other students wouldn't carry out any favours for her. She wouldn't gain anything from it either. Eloise, on the other hand, nobody was on her side when the cheating incident took place. Throughout her arguments with the former student representative, people just stood by indifferently. If Eloise then had an accident in which she was injured, even people with a very thick skin would feel guilty. In this case, just standing by and doing nothing was the same as abandoning her altogether. If I were in one of those students' shoes, I'd be even more afraid of facing the person I turned my back on in the past. I probably couldn't even look them in the eye. It sounds harsh, but Eloise is a student representative, and she has a reputation. Students might go to extreme lengths in front of her, or for her. In other words, if she, as a victim, came over and asked me, "Onlooker, do something," it would be hard for them to refuse. Scarlet frowns and thinks about this, taking several deep breaths. She ruffles through her hair. I hate the thought of it, but I have to admit that what you're saying makes a lot of sense. Don't give me that look. I don't like this one bit as more than you do. My tone is harsh. Cecile and Eloise are really close. Anyone can see that. But why? Don't ask me. My answer is clear and concise. Eloise is the person that other students are most likely to do favours for. That's a logical conclusion. Nothing more, nothing less. As for the why behind it, I have no idea. I hope we're wrong about our assumptions. Eloise hasn't woken up yet, and there's a good chance she's going through the same ordeal that Cecile had to endure. Those demons from the illusion are still lurking around, as if everything weren't enough of a mess already. To be honest, I feel sorry for having complicated the situation even more with my theories. So what's the deal? Are you going to be honest with Cecile? Scarlet leans against the railing, staring at the moon's reflection in the puddles of water at her feet. I'll give it a few more days at least. Right now, the poor kid would probably go crazy if I told her. I look up at the sky and let out all these mixed feelings. I look up at the sky and let all of those mixed feelings rush over me. Fair enough. I'll find a way to deal with this. I'll think of some things. In the meantime, please don't mention it to anyone. Okay? Is it true? I shudder. It's the one voice I didn't want to hear at this very moment. Yet here it is. With the lights as dim as they are, I can't really make out their facial expression. But even in the dark, I can see Cecile's eyes tearing up. Is it true, Mr. Store Manager? Her voice trembles as she repeats the question, demanding an answer. What you said just now, is it all true? Scarlet quietly walks away. She just nopes out of it. Despite her tough demeanour, she's not as good at handling awkward situations. Every time I try to open my mouth and say something, my mind goes blank. I feel like a fish on dry land. Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then finally, acceptance. In the face of tragedy, one usually goes through 5 emotional stages. Right now, however, the only word to describe the emotion on her face is despair. Cecile turns and looks at Eloise. Perhaps because she's only just woke up, Eloise's steps are quiet and irregular. Nevertheless, she looks composed, exuding her signature calmness. Eloise responds to Cecile's gaze with silence. Eloise! Eloise! Say something! It's more of a plea than a question. Cecile tugs at Eloise's sleeve, then her trembling legs finally give out and she slumps softly to the ground. Eloise leans down to help up Cecile, with the same caring kindness a mother would give her daughter. Little Cecile, I'm so sorry. Following her apology, Eloise lets go of Cecile's hands and rushes down the stairs desperately. Hey! Her steps are close to leaps as she nearly falls as she breezes past me. Scarlet extends her arms to try and stop Eloise, but she's too slow. Eloise struggles to squeeze past Scarlet, who is knocked to the ground in an attempt to block the way. Eloise soon disappears into the night, after having made her way through the door. She never once tried to argue or explain herself. Eloise! Cecile is kneeling on the ground, powerless and small. Why? Why? You. How much did you overhear? Everything. Her fragility almost suffocates me. Everything, huh? I'm sorry. Cecile looks up into my eyes, and for a moment I get the feeling that she's back in the world of illusions. She grabs my arm in an attempt to pull herself up. She's as light as a feather, even as she puts her full body weight onto my arm. I'm so sorry, but everything is pretty obvious now. I'm happy to answer any questions I can to help. If even that was just part of Eloise's elaborate act, she's a perfect liar. Why did Eloise, who was the victim of bullying herself, come after Cecile, the innocent transfer student? I can't help but speculate about what Eloise might have been thinking. Did I do something wrong? Is it my fault? Cecile's voice is trembling. It's not the right question to be asking right now, but nobody can blame her. No, it's not. We all make mistakes in our lives, but kindness and tolerance aren't one of them. The mistake lies with those who impose their own pain on you. Although I don't want to demonize Eloise just yet, I have to choose my words carefully around Cecile right now. Once the heart has been scarred by a betrayal like that, it can accompany you your whole life. Trying to forget about it only offers temporary sanctuary. Eloise's behaviour can never be forgiven in that regard. Really? Is that really true? I'm not sure if she understood my answer. She nods silently and walks away slowly. Hey, where are you going? I can't help but grab her by the shoulder. She turns around and bows to me, as she always does. Thank you for taking care of me these past 2 days, Mr. Store Manager. I'm sorry to have bothered you so much. She continues to walk away after her apology. The girl resembles an empty husk more than a human right now. Cecile, you're not ready yet. Don't talk to Eloise. Not until we get her back here to explain. Okay. She doesn't bother looking back. You don't have to waste your time looking for her. It doesn't matter. Wait. Even after what she did to you? Did she take it too far? Yes. We all do that sometimes. Cecile speaks softly. She doesn't sound convinced, as if her words coming from her mouth are not her own. I just like the painting. That's it. I wanted to make friends, so I joined the art club. Sorry, she just likes painting, not the painting. My bad. There's no sense in it if I can't find a friend even there. I won't be pranked and bullied by them anymore, and they'll stop bothering me. That's a good thing for everyone, isn't it? Cecile is starting to sound more composed. Her tone is so calm that it almost seems as if she isn't talking about herself. She already seems to have recovered slightly from the initial shock, speaking about the situation from a more distant perspective. Scarlet won't drop the topic that easily and keeps questioning Cecile. You're just gonna let it go? I don't care. I've already caused you enough trouble. No, you haven't. And I don't understand. Are you not angry at all? Being angry only makes you feel worse. And it wouldn't change anything. It's better this way. Will you let us help you find justice? Justice? What for? How would you even go about it? Don't just give up on yourself like that. There's always a way. This is something I have no control over. Cecile looks at Scarlet with a seriousness in her eyes that barely conceals the sadness behind them. like a veil. I just have to learn to accept that this is the reality. I yearned for close friendship, someone I could trust. In the end, it was just wishful thinking. Cecile falls silent, her shoulders heavy with an invisible burden. Her silhouette slowly fades away, shrinking by the second as she walks away. Like a candle growing dimmer and dimmer, it seems as if her tragic story is reaching a silent end. Scarlett and I remain speechless. Although there are many things to be said, this doesn't seem like the right time. I'm afraid the facts wouldn't offer much comfort. Cecile isn't responsible for any of it, the poor girl. There was nothing she could have done differently. There's nothing to do but stand there in silence and watch Cecile leave Hermitage. Cecile is walking down the hallway. Opening hours are long over, and the clubhouse is completely silent at night. It's dark, but she knows this place so well that she could even navigate it with her eyes closed. Weird how you can become so familiar with a place over time without really noticing. Ever since the day of her transfer, all she longed for was a warm and welcoming home. Today, that wish has been half fulfilled. The art club is dipped in darkness, a familiar sight for Cecile. Whenever no one else was around, this place serves as a safe haven for Cecile and Eloise. Whatever happened here, Cecile will never forget those memories. That's the way things should be. Cecile! Eloise is standing there, as familiar as ever, but no matter how hard she tries, Cecile doesn't feel pleased about it like she did in the past. Maybe the store manager got something wrong, Cecile tries telling herself. She knows that's just wishful thinking, and Eloise never once tried to deny it. That's what causes Cecile the most distress. A few rays of moonlight light up Eloise's outline. The unbearable silence weighs heavy on Cecile. So, this is it. Nothing remains hidden from you long, it seems. Eloise gently brushes the paintings on the wall, her face buried in the surrounding darkness. For an outsider, the store manager's instincts sure are sharp. Or was it all obvious when I first came to the store? She sighs as if nothing matters anymore anyway. Eloise. You're here now. Things can't possibly get any worse. Say what you have to say, Cecile. Eloise turns around and looks directly into Cecile's eyes. From the outside, she's as calm as always, but Cecile knows her well enough to see through it. Eloise has given up hope. The past is the past. There's something more important that I need to know about. Please answer me honestly, Eloise. Cecile takes out a phone and shows Eloise the screen. Before she entered the classroom, she activated the stopwatch on her phone. What time is it now? All she has to do is read out the numbers on the screen, yet Eloise seems baffled and doesn't respond. She turns away, looking sadder by the second. I guessed as much. A wave of negative emotions overcomes Cecile. Eloise, so you've seen it too. After awakening from one of her hallucinations, Cecile experienced the exact same symptom. Time didn't align correctly anymore. It might just be a minuscule difference of 10 seconds, but the sequence of time is now completely mixed up for Eloise. Looking at the wall clock, she can see the needle trembling frantically, as if unsure in which direction time is supposed to flow. This explains why Eloise can't read the time, even if she wanted to. Are you being targeted? Eloise nods slowly. It was so close behind me just seconds before I woke up. So the dangerous entity has been preying upon Eloise as well, but she's gotten away until now. Is this some kind of benevolent gift? Pure luck? Or a twisted hunting game for the shadow creature? Cecile doesn't have an answer to any of it right now. Let's run away. Together. She puts away her phone and grabs Eloise's hands. Eloise's hands are as warm as ever, giving Cecile a sense of familiarity. No. However, Eloise refuses the kind gesture. I deserve it. It's time to let it come for me. We don't have time for this, Eloise. Do you even know how dangerous that thing is? Yes, I can feel it. Truthfully, I expected it to be worse. Eloise's words make Cecile stop in her tracks. Eloise? What are you talking about? You know, that girl was always the worst at landscape paintings at first. Some people's spatial awareness isn't naturally keen, even if their basic skills are above average. Those kinds of paintings require perspective knowledge, or else they'll look off. It's the person off the forum, isn't it? If something was right in front of her, she could replicate it better than anyone else. But otherwise, she couldn't even get the pattern on the floor straight. Until the end of last summer. Suddenly, the teacher was praising her advanced style. Why do you think it was? Hannah, Amelia, Faith, Evelyn. One name after another leaves her lips. Although she doesn't know their faces, Cecile has heard those names in the art club before. It's hard to find a true friend to talk to, isn't it? It shouldn't be. After all I've done, it's only natural that my punishment is severe. I messed up. Eloise raises her left hand as if trying to touch Cecile's face, but stops herself at the last second. It's too late to think about all of that now. Don't worry about it, Cecile. Tears form in her eyes, but Eloise's words remain firm. You can stop worrying about me disappointing you anymore. Cecile grabs Eloise's hand and tries to drag her out of the classroom, but Eloise remains where she is and shows no signs of wavering. The harder Cecile tries, the more she can feel an air of despair taking over the room. There's fear in Eloise's face. Never before had she felt this powerless. This isn't right. Even with the difference in height, Eloise shouldn't be this strong. The realization is accompanied by a layer of smoke that is beginning to spread around them. Focusing all her attention on Eloise, Cecile hadn't noticed the sticks of incense placed on the floor, dimly illuminated by the moonlight. The perception begins to warp as she loses all control over her muscles, as if everything is just one big illusion. Cecile can't shake the doubts in her head. Is there any guarantee that the classroom itself isn't a hallucination? Eloise, you... Why? Eloise casts an apologetic look at Cecile, but shows no signs of stopping this. I've considered my options, but in the end, this was the right way. It's over. Even if I confessed everything, would it change anything? That thing will catch up to us. So what? We escaped today, but can we escape tomorrow? What about the day after? Sooner or later it will catch up to us, and then there'll be nothing more we can do. A bitter thought, but Cecile can't help but agree. Cecile has no way of dealing with the creature, and every time she felt its presence, a feeling of utter dread and helplessness overcame her. Could they go back to the store manager? He doesn't know everything. It should be K-N-O-W, by the way, but fine. It's a typo from a Chinese game. They've been pretty good so far, anyway. He doesn't know anything, flub the line on the second attempt. He doesn't know everything either. And though a little unreasonable, Cecile doesn't want to return to the place that caused her so much sadness. Either way, that's something she could only do if she had the strength to leave the room. Winning has never been an option. Let me be my old self again. Eloise reaches out, her warm fingertips touching Cecile's face. I'm really sorry, Cecile. At least, I know that the last thing I'll see is you. The voice in Cecile's ears is becoming more and more hollow, numbing all her thoughts. All sorts of scenes surface before her, twisting and stretching into tunnels of an indistinguishable colour, just as she experienced before. Wherever her eyes move is where the tunnel ends. The sweet, smoky scent of the incense dulls her mind. There are all kinds of obstacles in the tunnel, but she suddenly has a clear line of sight in front of her. In that instant, time loses its meaning. In the midst of the smoke from the incense, a wisp of colour rises up, and Cecile instinctively waves her hand at it. This purple smoke doesn't seem to have a source, and she can't determine whether it's near or far away. The air is like a sponge covered in ink, and the corners of the room turn into a black mist. Without warning, the world changes colour. Her? A warmth is coursing through her body. Her chest feels as if something is crushing it from the inside. She's having trouble breathing, and her lungs aren't working properly. Upon closer inspection, she spots a lonely, gaping hole in the middle of her chest. The last semblance of her conscious mind disappears, like chalk from a board. The mist in the corners of the room is becoming more dense, as if it were an entity in itself. The being seems to be adapting to the surrounding environment. Bit by bit, it squeezes its angular body out of the infinite darkness, coiling in an arc in mid-air. This strange creature doesn't adhere to the rules of the world as we know it. It is made up of almost entirely of jutting shapes, yet its surface is shimmering with the liquid reflections. Several eyes are arranged freely at one section of the body, indicating that it might be what we call a head. Although different in shape, the dozen or so piercing, nightmarish eyes are no different from before. Cecile could never forget them. So, this is it. The smoke dissolves for just a fraction of a second, and Cecile finds time to squeeze one last thought into her mind. Uncommon homicide at Phoenix High. Police rule out suicide. Local news. This morning there was a murder at Phoenix High School whereby 2 students were killed. The investigation is underway, but the possibility of suicide has been primarily ruled out. It is reported that the murder occurred at a student club activity room of Phoenix High School. Student members who came to participate in the club activities discovered 2 bodies and contacted the school authorities. The police were immediately notified and have secured the crime scene. The witness students are also receiving psychological guidance. According to sources, there were large open traumas and penetrating wounds on the 2 bodies, the likes of which have never been seen before. The crime scene showed a number of deaths, chairs and appliances either destroyed or severely damaged. The blood of the 2 victims was scattered across the room. The gruesome scene even made most of the experienced field investigators feel extremely uncomfortable. It was unlike any other case they've seen before. Meanwhile, the school ordered the whole building on lockdown to safeguard its students. A reporter learned from a collaborator that the 2 deceased belonged to the school's elite art club, Elite Brushes, and they had friendly relationship and often travelled together. Club members who were interviewed said they have no clue whether the 2 had animosity towards other students or staff members, while some refused to disclose additional information about the victims. No weapon was found at the crime scene by investigators, but judging from early reports, both victims were killed by a large instrument. Therefore, the possibility of suicide or self-inflicted wounds on each other can't be ruled out. Oh no, it can be ruled out. News in, it can be ruled out. This murder is extremely shocking. We've not yet been able to completely investigate the crime scene and are still waiting on the autopsy reports. But there is maybe more than one cause of that death. Timothy, the police officer in charge of the case, said in an interview with reporters. In addition to significant injuries the victim suffered, we also found light blue mucus substance with unknown composition on both the deceased. These substances caused large-scale skin corrosion and tissue ulceration, possibly affecting viscera through blood. The kind of substance differs from all kinds of harmful poisons we often see. The culprit probably has a very high level of knowledge of chemistry and was well prepared to carry out the crime. The only conclusion we can provide at this time is that the injury inflicted was lethal, and that this was a thought-out plan. The police have also found ash residues from the burning items near the victims' bodies. Laboratory results show these ash residues may come from organic extracts. By now, there is no evidence to support a direct link between the burning items and the murder, and the origin of the burning items has not been confirmed. The murder caused considerable panic in Phoenix High School and its neighbouring communities, and is now being considered a high-profile case. The city police pledged to the school, students and families of the victims that solving the case is their top priority. As they bring together top experts who will conduct an in-depth investigation. They hope to bring the murderers to justice and close this case as soon as possible. As soon as persons of interest and suspects are revealed, the authorities plan to work with all media outlets on a large scale. We also hope the citizens will watch their neighbourhood closely for all suspicious individuals and inform the police as soon as possible on sight of such findings, Officer Timothy warned. It's hard to predict the murderer's mental state as to carry out this cruel deed to two unalarming students who had no capacity to resist. Life is precious. Please make sure your safety is your top priority. Reporter Roland Sullivan. Well, I guess we failed. We got the ending Au fleur jumelle. Twisted ending. So it turned out, I guess, missing that case was very bad. She keeps her eyes closed. She can't forget what happened, because something still lingers in the air. Anger. Maybe. No, it's not just anger. Maybe it's regret. A jumble of thoughts sweeps through her mind, and the icy air is burning her cheeks. Flying is more difficult than she thought. Looks like her soul didn't sprout wings after all. Somehow, it's like she's still here. She feels relieved at the thought, and thus, the game begins. The world goes on, and the clock is steadily ticking. The world doesn't owe anything to anyone, and so it won't listen to anyone's requests. Even praying won't turn bad things to good things all of a sudden. Therefore, those who expect a lot from the world should overthink their attitude. This is the restart of the game, isn't it? There is no joy, no sorrow, just emptiness. The world feels heavy on her shoulders. Okay. I don't know where to go from this. So, clearly we have made a doo-doo. I don't know if it's... If you remember, there was a point where we could look at Eloise for added clues. Or we could... Sorry, we missed out on that clue. I forgot what it's called now. I can't see it right now, annoyingly. Log, skip, hide. I can't really see, but the casing we failed last episode, maybe if you fail one of them, like, it just plays out as a loss. I'm not sure. But clearly, like, we've done something wrong. We've got the twisted ending, as they called it, which I think is just the bad ending. I think for now, we'll end this here. And then I guess next time I will skip ahead and try and fix it, so we can check out more of the game. But I don't know. We'll see. If this says finale above it, it means I couldn't be bothered and we've ended it here. And then you can check the game out yourself. But I think we'll give this a little bit more investigation. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. Everything helps me out. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye.